Hello, I'm Andrei Lokhin, and you're watching The Binding Program. I greet you all, and today we will discuss the theme of the war again. There is one Belarusian writer who won the Nobel Prize in Literature for her works on the theme Women in the War. Her name is Svetlana Aleksiyevich. I think that Ukrainians have their own Svetlana Aleksiyevich. But speaking the truth, she's much younger, and she's also the author of the collection book titled Girls Cut Their Braids. It includes 25 stories about a woman that took part in the war. She's a young, beautiful, and very experienced war correspondent named Yevheniya Podobna. Zhenya, you are too young to be considered a Ukrainian Aleksiyevich. It seems to me that only a woman with experience should write about women in the war. And you are very young. Tell me, please, how did you find yourself in the whirl of these events, and why did you become interested in this topic? Well, I think I am far from the level of Aleksiyevich. It so happened that when the war began, I became a correspondent. I began to go to the front to make news stories. Then I understood that television is very cruel when it comes to human stories. The fact is that only 30 seconds of live speech is broadcast. But when you are in a war zone, you can meet really unique people who have interesting stories and unique viewpoints of life. I just wanted to tell about women of the war. This is a unique phenomenon in Ukrainian society. I just wanted to give them the opportunity to speak their mind about this. I understand, but you know, Zhenya, I still remember the famous Soviet phrases such as "the war has no woman's face" and in general, "a woman in a war is nonsense." Even in spite of modern views, this is when a woman protects her homeland in a par with a man, and when she performs manly work that was considered to be only the work of a man 50 years ago. But all the same, it seems to me that a woman in the war is nonsense. It does not have to be that way. In general, there should not be war. But in your opinion, what is woman in war? Do women go there at their own will, or are they forced to go there? For example, you came to the front because you were a war correspondent. But who are the heroines of your book titled Girls Cut Their Braids? How exactly did they get to the front, and why did they go there? I somewhat do not agree with you that women should not go to war. It seems to me that the sex of a defender as a patriot should not be an important factor. You are either a patriot or you are not, and this should not depend on any genetic traits. Well, I'm a man of the old generation, so you understand that that is difficult for me. All the same, I will try to convince you. When I got there as a journalist, I was proposed, "Do you want to be at war?" Of course, I responded that I wanted to. It so happened that I went there. And I would not say that it is easier for men to work. Men and women have absolutely the same job duties. It depends on motivation. The girls who are described in my book got engaged in the war in a totally different way. In particular, they are former volunteers. That is, these are the women who were not indifferent, women who did not want to stay at home and just watch my news reports and wait for something. These are women who have an active attitude towards life. There were girls who went to war with their beloveds. I'm very sorry to say, but among the heroines of my book, there are 3 widows who lost their husbands or boyfriends during the war. The women have absolutely different motivations, but I saw that if a woman really wants to fight, she will fight at the same level as a man. If a woman has the desire, then she will take a position or assume duties that she is capable of performing at war. Of course, but unfortunately, the image of the woman is still associated with the International Women's Day. Roses, tulips, a beautiful dress and diamond rings. So what else do you need? I would say that we still have a male attitude towards a woman. And when a woman dressed in camouflage came from the war, when she protects her homeland on a par with men, usually men, especially men of my age, I do not know what to do and how to address such a woman. You cannot ask such girls, "Dear, what would you prefer, diamonds, roses, or a fur coat? I'll do everything for you, as you are the weaker sex." That is the attitude towards women who came from the war is changing. A woman who was at war, for example, is much stronger than me, as I am a man who was never at war. Tell me frankly, does war change the attitudes and outlooks of women? War changes everyone. War is like a river, and you can't step into the same river twice. That is, if you get there at least one time, then you become quite a different person. How does war change women? There are girls who accept all the events happening there quite easily. There are girls who take it more difficult. But it all depends on the person. But the interesting thing is that among my heroines, there are snipers. As for me, being a sniper is the worst responsibility that there can be. The fact is that you are not shooting at some kind of moving target or anywhere else. You see a person that you have to kill. You see a person that you should hit. And there are plenty of female soldiers. What is the difference between military women and military men? Male soldiers never confess that they're scared. They will never allow themselves to do that because they're men. Female soldiers can confess this and express their true emotions, their fear, and how painful and terrible it was. Men usually do not expose such emotions. Women are probably more sincere in this book than men in other books, because men talk more about the events, while women express their emotions and feelings they experienced at that moment. After all, war is not only about shooting and explosions. War has a major impact on the soul and character of every person who ends up in a battle for life and possibly ends in death. Did the war change you? Yes. Very much? First of all, the color of my hair changed drastically. My values of life also changed. I firmly believe that war considerably changes people's values of life. When you sit in a trench during a tank attack, and after that you send an SMS to your mother saying that you love her, and you realize that there is a chance that you may never have the chance to do this again. And it is only when you get out of this trench, and you are still alive, and it is still dinging in your ears, you understand that you have survived. So everything is cool. Other problems, for example, troubles at work or something else, become insignificant in comparison with war. And in principle, the girls, heroines of my book, also think so. Their values of life also totally change. The life of any of us was divided into life before and after the war. 25 women are the heroines of the book The Girls Cut Braids. They are very different and are absolutely not similar to one another. But a common misfortune united all of them. They will never be the same as they were before the war. And now our guest will tell about the heroines of her book.
Саме про героїнь збірки ми зараз поговоримо з нашою гостею.
25 girls, 25 destinies.
25 доль.
Tell me, which of them remained the most in your memory and had an effect on your conscience?
Пам'яталися, вас вразили або що?
You know, each of them remained in my memory and totally turned my perception of the world upside down. Of course, there are girls whose stories differ from other stories very much. For example, Tatiana Dunduk-Kucheryava. She is the only girl in Ukraine who evacuated the bodies of Ukrainian military servicemen that were killed. She is a delicate girl. She is thin. She has a very long braid, and she is very beautiful and wonderful. She always smiles. But she was doing very terrible things. That is, she got into a uniform and went to a gray zone, risking to be blown up by a mine right on the spot or to be killed by an enemy bullet, but pulled out the bodies from the battlefield. She had to dig up the bodies of Ukrainian soldiers. This girl is absolutely unique, and I recall very well when I worked together with her and we evacuated the bodies of 2 Ukrainian soldiers from the occupied territory. And when she brought the bodies to Ukrainian territory and they were laid in a refrigerator, other servicemen witnessed this and were at loss for words, because she's one of the few who agreed to perform such hard work. But at the same time, she could support the soldiers and bring them together. She tells about how she managed to do all of this in the book. Another heroine, whom you will remember for sure, is Adriana Susak. This girl served in the Aidar battalion. Her story is absolutely unique. She took part in the liberation of the cities. Guys did not know for a long time that she was a woman. If she had not put on a balaclava, she would not have been allowed to serve in this battalion. This girl witnessed historical events and met her love on the front, and she was at the war until the 6th month of pregnancy, as long as she could wear a bulletproof vest. She also had a very unique experience. I remember one of her stories very well. One day the enemy wounded her blood brother. Driving in a vehicle, she saw him dying before her eyes. He asked to sing a song for him that his mother always sang for him. And she said, I sang the song, stroked him on his head, and saw that he was slowly dying. so he died in her arms. I would say that this is an experience you simply cannot imagine. You can only see it with your eyes and feel it with your heart and soul. The story of Katya Lutzik is also unique. This is a woman who took part in the battle in the Avdiivka industrial area. Maybe there were other women, but I did not see them. I met her by chance. She's also a very positive person. She's a doctor. So she saved the wounded soldiers in the hottest spots of the Avdiivka industrial zone. And it is simply incredible what this girl managed to do. She dispels all these stereotypes concerning women. This girl was probably in the most dangerous part of the front. But once a month, she went out, cut nails, and did hairdressing. So despite all the troubles, she remained a girl in the classical sense. And it is very painful when people say that you are a bad mother because you left your children and they call you some kind of cuckoo. In other words, some mothers go through such painful emotions. You know, they say society cannot live in permanent tension for many years. You have probably heard that society is exhausted from war. We put a certain barrier between war and everyday life. Young people don't care about the fact that some singers tour throughout Russia. So why not? After all, they sing good songs, so let them sing. Is it true that we are really tired, and how can we remind society that the war continues and there is no way out? I think this is a question we should pose to our guest of today's program. You know, the most interesting fact is that those people who even did not experience war got tired of it. That is exactly what I mean. That is, those who participated in the war were not exhausted, but sometimes there is certain physical and moral exhaustion. But very often I met many people who do not understand this at all. There was one interesting experiment that was written on Facebook that Ukrainian soldiers were surrounded in Horlivka. So let's pray for them. And there were 5,000 reposts of this news. But people do not understand that Horlivka has been occupied for already 5 years. This is some kind of a mock. It is clear that a lot of people are not indifferent because this happens in every war. They're not interested. I think that the situation is the same in every warring country. There is a certain number of people who simply do not care about this. And whatever you do, all the same they will not care. We can have common values only if it concerns everyone. Those that it has not affected most likely do not understand what it is. Somebody that lives in a peaceful city like Kyiv or Lviv simply does not think about what a projectile is until they don't hear its sound. Nonetheless, we can't send everyone to war in order for them to see and feel the tragedies and understand what war is. In my opinion, there is a lack of a normal information policy in Ukraine. Here we only find out from news how many attacks there were each day, how many houses were destroyed, and how many people were killed. That's all. This is exactly my point. There is no established system for rattling the nerves of Ukrainian society. Perhaps this is our fault as journalists, and it is quite possible that we do not correctly convey information to people. You know, I want to make some comments about your book, because the one who will read these real stories of women at war will no longer be the same.
Жінок на війні, той вже не буде таким, як був до того. Це зрозуміло, як на мене.
I would like to say that we should take some measures in order that society is more informed about the war.
Того, щоб цю книжку прочитало якомога більше народу.
For example, youth. Please tell me honestly, have some of your relatives or close friends read your book?
Ваше оточення. Вони читали всі цю книжку, вони знають, про що йдеться.
You know what happened so that after the start of the war, my immediate circle has considerably changed. That is, now my friends are mostly military people. First of all, they are volunteers and soldiers and my colleagues. On that note, I must truthfully say that military subculture does exist. The people who surround you are all associated with this. Do you still communicate with people from your past life? Do they refer to you as the author of this book? I got lucky. People from my past life, including many relatives who remained in the occupied territory, are major supporters of Ukraine. All the same, everyone chooses their own social circle to communicate with. I must say that I have always been surrounded by people who were not indifferent to the war. I am lucky in this regard. However, you know, as to the other society, I would like to say that my book includes stories of 2 Russian women. They have lived all their lives in Russia, but they moved to Ukraine after the war began. And this is worth their respect because the Russian woman has been defending Ukraine since 2014. And she has already received Ukrainian citizenship. The second one has not yet been granted Ukrainian citizenship. And they say that they are not exhausted and will fight to the end. One of them came here because she was ashamed. The second one decided to see what was happening here and decided that she was ashamed for her country. I understand your point of view perfectly well. I believe that you are absolutely right when you say that people are different, and someone will always be opposed even to victory. Like, let there be peace no matter what. Tell me, please, do you have plans to write more books or reports about the war?
Можемо ще очікувати від вас ще якихось збірок, репортажів тощо про те, що було на війні, про те, що коїться зараз.
I'm currently working on my second book. It seems to me that I will write even more. This book will be... Can I tell you about it? A small spoiler, of course. In half an hour, I will have an interview with one of the heroes of my book. It will be a book about the siege of Slavyansk. That is, it is about the people who were in captivity, about the people who died there, who were tortured by Gherkin's militants. It will be an intense story. You see that Ukrainian TV covers the news in a one-sided manner. The news reports either a serviceman who established his business and everything is cool in his life, or he's a military man and he needs treatment because they're all mentally ill after the war. You know, TV exposes only certain topics, and they're constantly covered in the information sphere. But there are other more important topics, and they're also worthy of exposure. Yes, it hurts, but it's necessary to talk about it in order to avoid the circumstances of the Second World War, when citizens of different parts of Yugoslavia started to fight against each other during the war. Ukrainian TV also did not cover the entire truth, and we also partially suffered because of it. As long as the eyewitnesses are alive, as long as everyone remembers it, we should say about these events. When Ukrainian war prisoners are released from captivity, journalists attack to make their news stories. When we mark the anniversary of liberation of the Donetsk airport, the journalists make their reporting about cyborgs. And what are they engaged in the rest of the year? This is an experience and we need to talk about it. Yevheniya, I want to thank you and wish you all the best. Thank you for your work. I hope I will find your next book and get a chance to read it. I bow down to you and to all the women that cut off their braids and went to the front to defend our homeland.
Вашій особі всім жінкам, всім дівчатам, всім, хто зрізали коси і пішли боронити цю землю, яку ми називаємо своєю.
Thank you for your pleasant company.